So I'm just gonna sip my tea and let's talk about shrooms. Hallucinogen and magic mushrooms relieves depression in large clinical trials to date. The dog. Hi. What? Do you see this? What are you doing? You're distracting me. Oh, okay. Okay, the dog. Gotta love him. What? What? What is this? Look, she's gonna come sit right while I'm talking. She being nosy. She wanna know about the magic shrooms. Oh shit. Okay, I might have to start again. Okay, so this is take two. I'm doing without the camera because the dog doesn't want to leave me alone. So I'm going to do my best to concentrate, even minus these mushrooms. Psilocybin, a hallucinogen found in magic mushrooms, helped to relieve symptoms in people with hard to treat depression in a large clinical trial. Take three. Here we go again. Let's try. I get distracted too easy. Psilocybin, the hallucinogen found in magic mushrooms, helped to relieve symptoms in people with hard to treat depression in the large clinical trials of its kind to date. The trial's organizers announced on Tuesday, November 9th. Earlier this year, a small study suggested that psilocybin might work as well as the common antidepressant Lexapro at relieving moderate to severe depression, and other past research has hinted at the drug's promise, Live Science previously reported. But this new trial, conducted by the pharmaceutical company Compass, is there a square attached to that? Compass pathway is the largest gold standard, I bet, trial of psilocybin to date, so its results could carry more weight than previous research. That said, the trial results have not yet been peer reviewed or published in a journal, so further review of this data is warranted. I think it's interesting that one of the backers is Morningstar. That old Lucifer, he's everywhere, isn't he? That's the name he goes by, Morningstar. Anyway, that's the same but different subject, but I'll get back to this part so that you. Anyway, the trial included 233 participants from 10 countries in North America and Europe. The participants were split into three groups, each which received a different dose of psilocybin in conjunction with psychological support. According to a statement from Compass Pathways, all of the participants had stopped taking antidepressants prior to the trial's start. 79 participants received a one-time 25 milligram dose of the drug, 75% received 10 milligram doses, and 79 received a 1 milligram dose. The lowest dose effectively functioned as a placebo, meaning it served as a point of comparison for the higher dose treatments, according to STAT. The trial was double blinded, meaning neither the trial organizers or the participants knew which treatment dose was given to each patient. The trial organizers used the Montgomery-Åsberg Depression Rating Scale. Boy, do I know that, mother. A common measure of clinical depression to evaluate the participants' symptoms before treatment, and then 3 weeks forward. By the third week, the ratings of the people in the 25 milligram dose group had fallen 6.6 more points on average than the ratings of the people in the low dose group, the researchers found. But the ratings in the 10 milligram group were not significantly different from those in the low dose group. Overall, 29.1% of the patients in the 25 milligram dose group have entered remission by the third week, compared with 7.6% of the placebo group. And 3 months after the treatment, 24.1% of the 25 milligram groups still showed a substantial response, meaning the MADRS scores had fallen by at least half, and remained that low over time. By comparison, 10.1% of the placebo group showed a sustained response, according to the company's statement. This sounds like an old thing I remember back in the day. It had to do with brainwashing. We'll read about that again later. But anyway, during the trial, 12 participants experienced a serious adverse event, such as suicidal behavior, intentionally self injury, or suicidal ideation. 5 of these participants were in the 25 milligram group, 6 were in the 10 milligram group, and 1 was in the 1 milligram group. These kind of symptoms commonly occur in those with treatment-resistant depression, the company statement noted, and some of the incidents of suicidal behavior occurred in patients who were essentially non-responding to the treatment, said Guy Goodwin. Good guy win, Guy Goodwin, good guy win, Compass. Compass with a good guy that wins on the pathway, Chief. Okay, I'm just playing. Let me stop. Treatment, the Guy Goodwin Compass Pathways Chief Medical Officer, according to Stat. I'm sorry, I'm actually getting distracted because the dog is sitting here looking at me and going in circles, and it's very distracting. So, anyway, sit down. Good girl. Good. Stay. Just stay. Now I could read again. I should just start over, but I'm not doing it. Sit down. Because the number of people who experienced serious adverse events were small, there's not a statistically significant difference in incidence of the adverse events among the 3 groups, Stat reported, but Compass Pathway plans to access the data in more detail to see if there's a possible link between psilocybin doses and the chance of suicidal ideation. Overall, the trial results are super promising, although we're still missing a lot of the detailed data. Boris Heffitz, I'm not sure how you say the name, a neuroscientist at Stanford University who studies psychedelics but was not part of the study, told Stat. Given the strong results, Compass Pathways plans to move ahead with a late-stage clinical trial of psilocybin, likely using the 25 milligram dose, but the details still remain to be discussed with regulators, Lars Christian Wild, co-founder and president of Compass Pathway, told Stat. Damn, I said that all in one sentence. I should breathe now. The recent trial was a so-called Phase 2B trial, which was intended to figure out the appropriate dose. The next trial, a Phase 3, will test the chosen dose in a larger group. I find this interesting on several accounts. One, because I suffer depression. Two, I've heard that shrooms have helped. But it also reminds me of back in the day with the CIA programs and so forth. They used drugs and LSD to brainwash people. So, it could be used both directions. So be careful. But this is something that I think looks like a promising tool. Let's look a little bit more into one of their new studies because I read something about Atlanta, that they're doing a study in Atlanta because they wanted to help the impoverished brown community. That's what they say. So, in other words, they're targeting the people in Atlanta, Georgia. The brown folks, they're looking for you. If you have mental problems and you live out there, they are doing this test. And, well, here it is. Here's part of their website. So this is compasspathways.com. And under their stories from November 16th, 2020, earlier this year, Compass provided an unrestricted educational grant to the Emory University Grady Trauma Project in Atlanta, Georgia, to explore the mental health care needs and attitudes towards psychedelic therapy in marginalized and underprivileged communities, with the goal of developing culturally informed psilocybin therapy for depression and other mental health conditions. We spoke to 2 leading researchers of the project, Dr. Sierra Carter, assistant professor in the Department of Psychology at Georgia State University, and Dr. Jessica Maples Keller, assistant professor in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Science at Emory University School of Medicine. What is the Grady Trauma Project? The Grady Trauma Project is a large research study looking at the impact of stress and trauma-related risk factors for post-traumatic stress disorders and related mental and physical health conditions in Black Americans in Atlanta, Georgia. Our research suggests that this community experiences high rates of trauma, with over 90% reporting at least one traumatic experience, almost half suffering from PTSD, and 36% have lifetime major depressive disorders. The project is run by an interdisciplinary team of investigators and uses a variety of techniques: neuroimaging, psychopsychology, focus groups, intervention research, to understand poor health outcomes related to trauma and PTSD. Over the last 15 years, we have conducted trauma interviews with over 12,000 people through the Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta, Georgia. Black Americans experienced systemic racism and oppression, resulting in increased rates of trauma and poor mental and physical health outcomes. Distrust of the medical community due to historical injustices and racial inequalities in mental health care may be a barrier to engaging in innovative new treatments. We have seen strong evidence emerging for the efficacy of psychedelic therapy in addressing mental health challenges, but most people who take part in the psychedelic studies to date are non-Hispanic white. We believe that language and context is an important part of psychedelic therapy, and that cultural factors should be considered, particularly for marginalized groups. Compass Pathways is supporting us in our research to investigate perceptions of psychedelics in underserved groups, particularly racial and ethnic minorities, to help inform best practices. We were conducting focus groups with members of the Black community and mental health providers who support them to understand perceptions of psychedelic therapy, potential barriers to engage in these investigational treatments, and views of language and cultural context of these therapies. Our goal is to improve access to communities of color by addressing unique barriers, conducting research, developing culturally informed modifications for psychedelic therapy, and informing best practices for cultural competency within psychedelic interventions. Happy birthday, Jasmine. My daughter it's midnight. No, half an hour till. Okay, so that was just a side note. Happy 22nd birthday, Jasmine. Okay, Compass is supporting us in our research to investigate perceptions of psychedelics in underserved groups, particularly, I already read that, it's just written in bigger letters. So, this is an interesting article. You know, of course, I'm a bit leery when I look at it and the targeting demographic, but at the same time, I'm happy because the demographics need assistance. The only way to break chains is to deal with the situation, absorb the knowledge, the trauma, learn how to cope with it, move forward, and then not repeat the process and break that cycle so that your family doesn't repeat it. At the same time, I can't help but think back in the day when LSD, again, I said that in the first video I made a minute ago, saying about how it was used for mind control back in the day. So just make sure if you're looking into stuff like that, that this is out here to help you get your mind back, not to give it away. Be very careful. Stay cognizant. Get help. If you need mental help, get help. If you need support, get the support. I'm just saying, do your due diligence and your research in order to know thyself. You do truly have to study to show yourself approved. God wasn't lying about that. All right, just my thoughts here.
Damn, it took me 2 days to be able to record this damn video. That's how much this one rocked me. And I ain't even been on no shrooms. Never had them. Except I've eaten regular ones. But not the shroomy doomies. Instead of recording a video to have just been able to add a YouTube video, but with all the censors, unfortunately, I don't want that spanking, so instead we'll look at this article. Excuse me. So this is from August 21st, 2018. Now, most of you by now know about MK Ultra, but this sounds a bit similar to the other articles we read in a sense of the mushrooms. So let's take a look. Let's read this. MKUltra was a top-secret CIA project in which the agency conducted hundreds of clandestine experiments, sometimes on unwitting U.S. citizens, to assess the potential use of LSD and other drugs for mind control, information gathering, and psychological torture. Through Project MKUltra lasted from 1953 until 1973. That's a lie, it's still going on. Details of the illicit program didn't become public until the year I was born, 1975, during a congressional investigation into widespread illegal CIA activities within the United States and around the world. In the 1950s and 1960s, the height of the Cold War, the U.S. government feared that Soviet, Chinese, and North Korean agents were using mind control to brainwash U.S. prisoners of war in Korea. In response, Alan Dulles, director of Central Intelligence Agency, approved Project MKUltra in 1953. The covert operation aimed to develop techniques that can be used against Soviet bloc enemies to control human behavior with drugs and other psychological manipulators. The program involved more than 150 human experiments involving psychedelic drugs, paralytics, and electroshock therapy. Sometimes the test subjects knew they were participating in a study, but at other times they had no idea, even when the hallucinogens started taking effect. Many of these tests were conducted at universities, hospitals, or prisons in the United States and Canada. Most of these took place between 1953 and 1964, but it's not clear how many people were involved in the tests. The agency kept notorious poor records and destroyed most MKUltra documents. How convenient, when the program was officially halted in 1953. Unfortunately, this is hard to read, especially because I know somebody who knew. Anyway, Gottlieb. Sorry, my friend, if you're listening to this, so don't be triggered when hearing it. The CIA began the experiment with LSD under the direction of agency chemist and poison expert Sidney Gottlieb. He believed the agency could harness the drug's mind-altering properties for brainwashing or psychological torture. Under the auspices of Project MKUltra, the CIA began to fund studies at Columbia University, Stanford University, and other colleges on the effects of the drug. After a series of tests, the drugs were deemed too unpredictable for use in counterintelligence. MKUltra also included experiments with ecstasy, mescaline, heroin, barbiturates, methamphetamines, and psilocybin, aka magic mushrooms. So, let's keep going. I know many of us have heard these a bazillion times, and for others it's closer to home. So, let's keep going. Operation Midnight Climax. Operation Midnight Climax was an MKUltra project in which government-employed prostitutes lured unsuspecting men into CIA safe houses, where drug experiments took place. The CIA dosed the men with LSD and then, while at times drinking cocktails, behind a two-way mirror, watched the drug's effect on the men's behavior. Recording devices were installed in the prostitutes' room disguised as electrical outlets. Most of the Operation Midnight Climax experiments took place here, where we are, in San Francisco, in Marin County, California, and in New York City. Fucking A. The program had little oversight, and the CIA agents involved admitted that a freewheeling party-like atmosphere prevailed. An agent named George White wrote to Gottlieb in 1971, "Of course, I was very minor missionary, actually a heretic, but I toiled wholeheartedly in the vineyards because it was fun, fun, fun. Where else could a red-blooded American boy lie, kill, and cheat, steal, deceive, rape, and pillage with the sanction and blessing of the All-Highest?" The death of Frank Olson. Frank Olson was a scientist who worked for the CIA. At a 1953 CIA retreat, Olson drank a cocktail that had been secretly spiked with LSD. A few days later, on November 28th, that's this month, in 1953, Olson tumbled to his death from the window of a New York City hotel room of an alleged suicide, which we all know was bullshit, but allegedly. But let's keep reading. The family of Frank Olson decided to have a second autopsy performed in 1994. A forensic team found injuries on the body that had likely occurred before the fall. The findings sparked conspiracy theorists that Olson might have been assassinated by the CIA. After prolonged legal proceedings, Olson's family was rewarded a settlement of $750,000 and received a personal apology from President General Ford and then CIA Director William Colby. Ken Kensley and other MKUltra participants. Ken Kensley, author of the 1962 novel One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Remember reading that in high school, you guys? Volunteered for MKUltra experiments with LSD while he was a college student at Stanford University. Kensley later went on to promote the drug, hosting LSD-fueled parties that he called acid tests. Acid tests combined drug use with musical performances by bands including the Grateful Dead and psychedelic effects such as fluorescent paint and black lights. These parties influenced the early development of the hippie culture and kickstarted the 1960s psychedelic drug scene. Boy, all the MK is there for sure. Other notable people who reportedly volunteered for CIA-backed experiments with LSD included Robert Hunter, the Grateful Dead lyricist, Ted Kaczynski, better known as the Unabomber, and James Joseph Whitney. Fuck! I can't even fucking talk. The notorious Boston mobster. Church committee. Just keeps going. In 1974, New York Times journalist Seymour Hersh published a story about how the CIA had conducted non-consensual drug experiments and illegal spying operations on U.S. citizens. He reported his report started the lengthy process. This stuff makes me so mad that I am stuttering way more than usual. I am so sorry. Let me try again. His report started the lengthy process of bringing long suppressed details about MKUltra to light. Now I sound monotone. That's not working either. Now I'm just nervous and embarrassed saying, restart this again. But the other part of me says, no, because this is how it really is. So people, sorry. Doing the best I can. The following year, President Ford, in the wake of the Watergate scandal, again, I'm sorry, friends, and amid growing distrust of the U.S. government, set up the United States President's Commission on CIA Activities within the United States to investigate illegal CIA activities, including Project MKUltra and other experiments on unsuspecting citizens. The commission was led by Vice President Nelson Rockefeller and is commonly referred to as the Rockefeller Commission. The Church Committee,
helmed by Idaho Democratic Senator Frank Church, was a larger investigation into the abuse of the CIA, FBI, and other U.S. intelligence agencies during and after the resignation of President Richard M. Nixon. The Church Committee helmed by Idaho Democratic Senator Frank Church, was a larger investigation into the abuse of the CIA, FBI, and other U.S. intelligence agencies during and after the resignation of President Richard M. Nixon. The Church Committee delved into plots to assassinate foreign leaders, including Cuban dictator Fidel Castro and Congolese independence leader Patrice Lumumba. It also uncovered thousands of documents related to MKUltra. These revelations resulted in Ford's 1976 executive order on intelligence activities that prohibited experimentation, close enough, experimentation with drugs on human subjects, except with the informed consent in writing and witnessed by a disinterested party of each of such human subject.
This video was a much harder one to do. Reading it, I stuttered a lot. Sorry. It's just that a lot of these touch close to home, either because I have family who were victims of mind control to the point of electroshock, and I got to witness some of that, and it was not cute. And then I have friends who are super soldiers who were programmed under Gottlieb and others. And I feel terrible for them because I couldn't imagine going through that. I couldn't even fathom. I'm a victim of, I'm not a victim. I'm an overcomer, a survivor. I was a victim when I still didn't understand the power I had within myself to operate above it and let that stuff go. Since I myself was a victim of ritual abuse, I can see the cycle. Although I didn't experience it on such a deep level that some of these people did. And I'm not saying with mushrooms one way or the other if I think that they're doing it nowadays to free your mind, or if they're doing it to reprogram your mind, or if it's giving you an opportunity to find your true self. I don't know. I'm not here to judge that. I'm just pointing out different things, the yin and the yang, the good and the bad. That way, at least, someone will make a more informed decision. Gosh, I am stuttering today. Okay, this is what you get today, you guys. Sorry.